Being a pro athlete is very different than anything a recreational athlete will ever encounter. And I'm listening to a lot of debates on the topic of pro athletes training, so I kind of wanted to weigh in. Context is everything. Let me repeat that. Context is everything. It's pretty pointless to discuss about training of professional athletes if you don't even know which sport they're playing, and mind you, there are many different sports, and each of them has its own unique demands. And then there are people, and people are quite different too. So there's an idea in statistics, and it basically says that equal chances cause unequal distribution. If you had a chance to randomly select 1 out of 10 numbers, and then you repeat this selection a million times, you would not end up with every number being present 100,000 times. Some numbers would be more prevalent and others less so. How does that transfer to professional athletes? Simple. Personalization. In order to do the same thing on the playing field, they need to do different things in the gym. Let's take two American football players. Say John is slow due to low muscle mass and Ben is slow due to excess weight. If you want to make both of these guys faster, you will clearly train them differently. Let me say this again. Every individual has his or her unique needs. Even if they want to reach the same goal, chances are that they will have to train slightly differently for it. How do we know what to do with who? You see, trainers, or more often teams of trainers in case of professional athletes, do thorough assessment of necessary factors and select training methods accordingly. Based on this, they select the goals and formulate strategies to achieve them. Based off the assessment of the current state and abilities of the athlete, they choose exercises to improve performance. You do not start with the exercises. And you especially don't just copy what other people are doing without any rationale behind it. Another thing to understand is that professional athletes are all about performance. Anything goes for the sake of victory. These people spend hours a day training, and they do it for 2 or 3 decades, in some cases even longer. Discussing their training based on a 30-second YouTube clip or an Instagram post that you have seen is, in my opinion, pointless. I want to discuss a few points that I see very often, and people talking about them demonstrate lack of understanding of what's going on. First, sports are complex. They are a mix of physical abilities, skills, and mental abilities. Like I said, athletes want high performance in their sport or discipline, and that means fitting in all the pieces of the puzzle to make the picture of a trophy. In order to get a clear picture, all pieces must fit. Maxing out on a single trait is like enlarging a puzzle piece. It can actually make the piece harder to fit into the picture. Some sports are single trait dominant. Others are not. Physical traits are important, but they are not end-all be-all, especially in skill sports. Let's take tennis for example, or basketball. Jumping 6 meters into the air is not going to make you an MVP. Just like there is no tennis champion that holds world records in powerlifting. People wrongly believe that increasing strength will necessarily increase performance in a sport. It won't. It will if you're a powerlifter, or if you're lacking strength, then sure, it will help. But if you already have enough, then it won't. It's the assessment that shows which trait an athlete needs to improve. Blindly prescribing everyone strength training is like prescribing everyone same medicine. At best, useless. At worst, dangerous. Good. Now that that's out of the way, why don't athletes always want to be stronger? It's quite simple really. It may not transfer into higher performance in their sport. There are other attributes like speed, stability, specific motor skills, balance, endurance, or mental abilities like knowledge that an athlete may need. Many athletes do very basic strength training for several reasons. First, it does the job. If push-ups do the job, then stick with push-ups. Realistically speaking, many athletes in skill sports need basic level of strength, not superhuman levels. Second, once you get to a point where your strength level is synergistic with the peak of your performance, it's about maintaining it, not increasing it. Also, increasing a trait like strength increases the risk as well. Higher the load, higher the risk. If you make $100 million per year, you want the risk of injuries to be minimal. Professional athletes prioritize safety as much as they can. Sometimes they do really funny and ridiculous things and post it online, but that doesn't mean anything to us but transfer well into their chosen sports. Remember, anything goes for the sake of victory and money. Another thing, training 20 hours a week since the age of 5 can get boring, very boring. When athletes do some crazy things or some weird variations of an exercise, it can just mean that they were bored. Variety is the spice of life. Reaching extreme levels of performance asks for knowledge that is not common. Sport-specific training can look very strange to a guy who just wants to look good naked. Matching the force curve and timing of the thing that they will do in their sport sometimes requires special equipment, expensive equipment, and training the right muscle fibers is also a thing many people don't really understand. If you want to jump well, you gotta train the fast twitch fibers. How do you activate those? High velocity. If we do a movement very slowly, it doesn't really matter the amount of strength, we may not actually be training our fast twitch fibers. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. Some other time, I'm gonna talk about more concrete practices like half reps versus training full range of motion. Both are good, just different tools in the box to be used for different purposes. It will all make sense, trust me. I've seen some debate on it, so I wanna weigh in. Another topic is going to be what is delayed onset muscle soreness, how to reduce it, how to reduce inflammation, what the hell is a force curve and why it matters, and more things. So thank you for stopping by and I hope you enjoyed the content.